when we first moved to Sydney, Shay was full-time working. I was making wind chimes. I was making wind chimes for cash. I was
working 2-3 jobs.
So, and she was looking after me, which is good because, that's what toy boys do. Hey folks, Jason here, your host of the Wealth Faculty Podcast, and today, Marcus, interviewed us.
I put you under the griller, you and your beautiful wife, Shay. Yes. It's been a big topic of conversation this year, marriage and money, and more than just marriage and money. We talk about how do you actually raise your children with a wealth consciousness. I ask you guys some hard questions about dealing with conflict, like what do you fight and argue about? How do you deal with your different personalities in yourselves and your children? How do you deal with wealth and friends? I thought I really put you under the griller.
You gave us a few curly questions, mate. Enjoyed the conversation I did.
And we didn't edit a thing out. So it is no holes barred. It is unedited from go to woe. I took full creative license to ask you any question. Didn't give you the questions beforehand. Did a pop quiz at the end to see how well you knew each other.
I did all right for about 50% of that. So, so thanks, mate. Thanks for hosting us on the podcast. Really appreciate it. And folks, I hope you enjoy this episode of the podcast, interviewing by Marcus, myself, and my wife Shay.
Shay and Jason Whitton, welcome to the Wealth Faculty.
Mate, thanks for hosting us on the Wealth Faculty today.
I'm telling you, I'm enjoying hosting your podcast, Jason. This is very special. Merry Christmas and all the best over the festive season to you both.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's not very often that we get a husband and wife on any podcast. We had Danny and Kim Morrison recently on the Wealth Faculty, but thanks for making the time amidst the crazy time of Christmas to be on this podcast, because it is that time of year where marriage, money, family, work, all the rest of it. People think people are on holidays, but this can be one of the most challenging,
stressful times.
Stressful times. It's the most wonderful time of the year, but not always. So much to chat with you guys about. I haven't given you the questions. You don't know what I'm going to ask you.
Feeling a bit nervous, Marcus.
Yeah, so you should. This is what I love. Let's start off with you, Shay, because it's always great when you ask the wife. Tell us, first of all, the love story of how you guys met, fell in love, and...
PG version, darling.
PG version.
Damn it. So this particular day, I'd actually been fired from my job in Perth. That it was like, 90s and downturn in the markets and those sorts of things. So casuals were losing their jobs. And that was my only source of income as well, because I'd left my degree with 6 months to go, because I was like, I don't want to work in a lab. I don't want to be a scientist and crack mice's necks. So I was a bit down in the dumps this day in particular, and my girlfriend Tanya was had a boyfriend who was in the Air Force. And so she said, oh, come on, Shay, come out to Pearce Air Force Base. They've got like a fun night on. It's like a footy fundraiser night. The drinks are cheap.
Yeah.
And
it's all I can afford right now.
I can afford. Yeah. I think I had $69 in my bank account or something like that, and that had to like do rent and food and petrol, which... So
you were screwed.
I was pretty screwed, yeah. 1992, I think that was.
Was it a while ago?
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
And, so we went out to the Pearce Air Force Base, and Jason was on the bar, and I thought he was cute, but Tanya's husband, Rob, kept saying, who do you like? Who do you like? Like, they were trying to set me up with people. And I was like, oh, yeah, he's cute. I even remember what he's wearing. He had like a creamy shirt on with a burgundy and grey like hoodie top underneath and these big chunky like tan boots with red laces and
got a good memory, darling.
Yeah, you were cute. And there was another guy as well, and they're like, do you like him? Do you like that? And I'm like, oh, yeah, he's cute. Anyway, they were doing skits as well on this particular night. And so Jason and his friend Rhett, and I can't remember the other guy who was with you on stage.
Maybe Moshe or something like that. Or JR. Was it JR? Maybe one of the guys.
Maybe
anyway.
It was JR. I don't know if there were 3 or 4 of you. Anyway, They came out in these little shorts and naughty hats that I found out later Jason had actually sewn up. And they were
Jason can sew.
Jason can sew.
Skills, yes. Hidden skills.
Hidden skills, yeah. And so they came out and they were doing these skits, and they had just shorts and a naughty hat on and no shirt. And Jason was working out twice a day, 6 days a week. So he's looking pretty hot.
Pretty fit.
Pretty fit. I'm like, oh, he's cute.
He could cheer me up.
So, you know, how many years later? What are we, 28 years later?
And counting.
And counting.
Yeah.
My only one night stand I've had was with my husband.
That is so good. I was going to say, did you know at that time? But you did, because it all happened on that night, and you've been together since.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you have the same memories of the night, Jason?
I do have very similar memories. Yeah, I can't remember what Shay was actually wearing. That wasn't, but I do remember certain anatomical parts of her being very impressive, and I think.
Oh dear.
Yes. Hopefully, our children aren't listening in and cringing at this moment in time.
Yeah, go for it.
Freaking out.
But true love at first sight, you know. So,
that is so good.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it's just an online dating thing or whatever it is, but you don't hear many people these days say, we met at a bar. And that was where it all started. Normally, it's like we met on, I don't know what the apps are these days. Bumble, Tinder, wherever it is. But anyway.
Old-fashioned way.
An old-fashioned. That's actually could be a great movie. I can actually see the actual love. At the bar, watching a bit of, it's almost like the full Monty. I thought that's where you were going.
No.
All right, so, fall in love. You spend a lot of time together. You fall in love. Because this is the wealth faculty, and I think this is a really big time I want to fast forward however long it was, to the point in your relationship where you realised that you actually wanted to make a concerted effort to make financial wealth a significant plank in your relationship. Because in the work that I do with you guys, a lot of it comes down to a lot of couples never actually have those. It's like one of the most important conversations you can have.
Yeah.
So you can fill in the blanks, but I would love to just go straight for the jugular and go, can you remember, did you sit down, was there a moment where you said, we're going to commit ourselves to do this properly, not play amateurs with this, we're actually going to do it properly?
I don't know. When do you reckon?
So I remember the time that I was working at a school, Knox Grammar School in Sydney, and a buddy of mine, probably a few months before, had given me a book to read, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he was quite good with money, and to be honest, we didn't care about money at that point in time. Our life was, we just lived paycheck to paycheck, as normally young people do, and living in Sydney was expensive anyway, so the paycheck didn't go very far.
I'll let him.
I'll get yours in a moment.
But I didn't particularly have any interest in being focused on money or wealth or anything like that at that point in time. But then slowly but surely, as we started to get, serious about our future as a couple and starting a family, and those sorts of things sort of started to come up, what are we going to do about money? Because, what I was earning wasn't very much.
Can you remember how much you were earning?
Listen, I think it was under 40 grand. I think it was like $36,000 a year.
Yep. How old were you?
20.
I was earning more.
Shay was earning way more than me. I was a toy boy. It was great. But anyway, when we first moved to Sydney, Shay was full-time working. I was making wind chimes. I was making wind chimes for cash. I was
working 2-3 jobs.
So, and she was looking after me, which is good because, that's what toy boys do. And I was going rock climbing. It was fantastic. I loved it.
My dad's house.
Listen,
I love it.
Like I'd retired. I'd found myself a rich bird to look after me, and it was actually what actually ruined us as we moved. Ruined me anyway. We moved straight to Palm Beach in Sydney and lived with Shay's dad for a while, and it was only downhill from there in Sydney. I mean, Palm Beach is like amazing place.
Is amazing.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we're getting sidelined. But for me, paying attention to money was really the turning point for me. Was reading the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. And
so what did it bring up? Because the things that you've told me was you resisted, and I remember resisting a number of things in there as well. Like, it wasn't this light bulb moment where you were like, yes. You said, nah, some of the things in that book were like,
yeah. Well,
it is interesting because my journey around business and real estate started well before Jason. So my parents actually bought houses and renovated and sold them for profit. So that was already kind of an idea in our family. Our friends who introduced us to that book, and we played, the cash flow game and all of that sort of stuff as well. Like that sort of, I suppose opened possibilities to us, because neither Jason's or my families had anyone who ran businesses other than maybe my dad's dad. So my granddad had a mechanic shop in the back of his house in Scarborough, and he'd fix people's cars. But I didn't live with them or see them that often to really kind of understand how that worked so much as a business, sort of living, seeing family doing the book work or any of those sorts of things. But when we moved to Sydney, I was going to get further my career. I was getting out of Perth to go to Sydney. And when we had the conversation about leaving Perth, Jason wanted to go to Melbourne because that's where the good rock climbing was. And I wanted to go to Sydney because Dad was there. And Dad worked in TV, and I thought, well, maybe I can get into something over there and earn some big money in the big city, and maybe come back to Perth after that. So that was already in my mind. And my job that I had after working the 3 jobs was like a career job in Sydney, an international marketing manager, car, laptop, mobile phone, long hours.
Security and benefits.
Security and benefits, keep Jason in the lifestyle he'd become accustomed to.
Making the wind chimes and going rock climbing.
I only worked sort of a couple of hours a day and rock climbed the rest. It was fantastic.
Yeah, well then when he was working at the school, he actually had 13 weeks holiday a year and I had 4, so he'd go rock climbing a lot or play Civilization on computers. But he was reading books, and Jason's always read books. So I think it was kind of like that merged together. We, in a relationship, if you learn together, you always grow together, but you don't grow exactly at the same time in the same things.
Not in a linear way.
It's not. It's
such a good point.
So you kind of, end up at the same point, as often as you can. I think it's probably the good thing. And that's kind of when we got to Knox and we were looking at that stuff, that's when we kind of merged our view of okay, we need to do this together. It's not your career path and my career path. We're married and we need to do something together.
Well, I mean, we had that turning point, and I went to a course, remember, with Justin. So it was John Burley. John Burley was the first real estate investing course that I ever did. And John Burley was Robert Kiyosaki's property guy. It was Sam Saggers for Robert Kiyosaki. So his book was awesome. His course was great. Came back after that, and it was not long after that I said to Shay, I think I want to do something else, a bit more entrepreneurial. I might throw my job in. Are you happy to keep working? We can do something else. So,
which was so dumb because we were living it for free in Sydney. So
it wasn't a financial conversation.
No,
it was almost like an adventure conversation. I look back on it now. What motivated me was excitement and adventure and doing something different.
Yes,
not necessarily going after the dollar.
Yeah,
that wasn't the motivation. It was this is interesting. I want to work this stuff out. Maybe we can have some fun being a property investor or doing something motivational.
I have a different perspective of that choice as well, right? Yeah. Because I earned more money, it made more sense for me to stay working because we could afford to live off my wage. But also, we were going to have kids soon. So whatever Jason needed to do, he needed to work that out so then we could have kids. Mm-hmm. So if I kept working and he worked it out, hopefully that income disparity, would magically dissolve away and,
No.
it would all work out perfectly, and we could work in the business together, and the babies would sleep under the desk quietly. And
the perfect plan, the fairy tale plan,
the fairy tale plan, which wasn't how it was at all.
So, but it does seem to me like I really love hearing this because I feel like many people listening will have had similar experiences where it's not like you develop this muscle overnight where you go, right, we're committing no matter what, we're going to ride the ups and lows and all the rest of it. It's almost like dipping the toe in the water. That sounds exciting. I think I might go, I'll give that a shot and see how we go. Kids are on the horizon and all the rest of it. So if you take it a bit further, when did you know that in many ways there was almost no turning back? Like you've spoken, and for people listening going, I want you to fill in more of the gaps. Like a lot of this story, a lot of the gaps are in the very first episode of the Wealth Faculty, where you describe the early days of buying your first investment property and thinking you could retire and all the rest of it. But when did you decide? And you might go, no, we've actually just continued on this roller coaster. But was it when you started Positive Real Estate? Was it before then, when you developed a bit more of a portfolio? Did you get to a point where you're like, okay, this is our life, like this is what we're going to do for the next X amount of years as a family and as a couple?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the solidification was when I quit my job, and so I wasn't going to have a job or something like that. I was going to go do property investing.
Yep.
And so for quite a while, we didn't even start Positive Real Estate for 2 years. Until after that, maybe 3 years. I think it was. I think it was 2000 or 2001.
It was like a halfway through a year. Maybe.
Yeah, halfway through 2000 or something like that, where we bought our first property. It went well and then it didn't go well. And we said, well, we're going to continue down this track. And we ended up, living in an investment property that we had. You can track it down, actually. I think there's a show still on one of those pay TV networks where we bought a development deal together. I don't tell this story that much, with 4 other couples. And we were going to develop this.
Auction Squad.
Yeah, it was Auction Squad. That's it, yeah. And we bought these 4 subdivision, these 4 blocks subdivided. Anyway, it didn't go well. And we were like, we better get out of this deal. And then a friend of ours said, Auction Squad's looking for a renovation property. We need one like literally in 4 days' time. One's fallen through. And we said, yeah, okay, we'll do it. So they literally came and renovated our old house and then sold it, and we made a profit, and we got out of it with,
what a great way to get out of the deal.
It was crazy.
And we all had small babies, so all the couples all had babies, like just had babies and stuff as well. So when they shot it, so
they
it
loved
was
the
a great
story.
news story.
Yeah.
There's like 4 couples with babies, thought this was going to work.
Good talent.
Help them out.
Good talent.
Yeah.
Good talent.
Now, the Positive Real Estate story doesn't get spoken about a lot. I haven't heard you speak about it too much. All I kind of think of is you invested in properties, you started seeing a lot more opportunities than you could actually finance yourselves, and you eventually created a business to share that with other people because you couldn't buy every single good deal that you saw. But whose idea was this? Who's claiming it? Shay? Jason?
Well, if we go back, Shay found the name Positive Real Estate. But if we go back to what we did do together, and when we sold the property on the back end of one of our first deals that didn't go so great, and we were getting out, we basically ended up with like I think $20,000 or $30,000 of cash in our bank account.
There's a deeper story there. So we actually, I'd got fired from my job or made redundant because it was after 9/11 and I was working for an online travel company. So Jace was still doing his work. I'd gone to earn more money in Sydney, and so we then had a property we were trying to sell. I'd been made redundant, and we ended up living in our friend's house who'd helped us find stuff. So we literally had no money at Christmas time. They lent us money to get through because the company didn't pay us out. We had to go on the dole and get them to pay all the super.
You didn't even get paid after that.
Didn't get paid, didn't put super, like nothing. So like 4th of December before Christmas, all the company called in, 70 people, we're shutting it down. United Emirates are not backing us anymore. That's it, you're done. And we had like no money in the bank, maybe like $300. So Ruth and Justin looked after us and paid for everything, gave us some money. We thought we'd sold our house because we thought, okay, we've got cash in that, we'll be fine. And then the first contract fell through and we're like, what? So we're accumulating the mortgage. The bank knew that we were going to be selling it, but we're thinking, we're going to lose the property. We're not going to get the money. Like, we're a bit stressed about it. Anyway, the next contract went through in January, thank goodness. But when that settled, we'd actually seen Brad Sugar's Entrepreneurs Boot Camp Billionaires in Training, and we'd been to like a preview evening. And so we took our money from our property.
We took our last $20,000
and gave it to Brad Sugars.
Invested it in personal growth.
No, we invested it in personal growth, and I think that really sums up the approach that we've had to everything together. We're like, we wanted develop and grow, and we've chosen, people, faculty members to invest with, and over the time we've done, like I said before, in behind us here, like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of investing in self-development and growth right from the start. And,
I think the number's closer to $1 million. Let's be frank, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you include the both of us and everything that we've ever done, absolutely.
All the travel, all the accommodation, and all the courses.
So I would love to go here. This is not on the notes, and I'm really glad that this has come up, because I always said, when Sarah and I were observing what was happening in our own lives, I was always saying to Sarah, babe, we're investing in personal growth whilst our friends are buying mortgages, essentially. It was kind of just everyone was buying houses, but we were traveling around and we were spending a lot of money going to courses and all the rest of it. But it felt like such the right thing to do. But it was I'll use my corny one line, it was the exception to the rule. It wasn't what everyone else was doing.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people get their last 20 grand and put it into personal growth, Brad Sugars, however you want to define it. Like, these are massive forks in the road, because you could have gone and done any number of things with that $20,000
easily.
Let people in on the thoughts that go through your mind to do it. Was it a leap of faith? Was it a measured decision? Again, it was 20 years ago. But do you look back on it and go, well, what would have happened if we didn't do that? But what led you to go down that personal growth path and continue on it for 2 decades and running?
Well, I think, one of the defining moments that we both had from when we first got together in Perth as basically a couple of teenagers, I was in the Air Force and I took a redundancy. They were offering, this was when I was 19, or a little bit older after that actually, but, they were offering, hey, who wants to get out of the Air Force? And I'm like, I'm out. How much will you pay me? And they said, have $30,000 because you've been here 4.5 years. And I'm like, I'll take that.
Wow.
So basically, came home one night and said, Shay, I can get $30,000. Do you want to just rack off? Like, should we just go on an adventure? And Shay's like, yeah, I hate my job right now. I'm a manager at Target. I hate it.
Yeah, hate it.
So we both just decided to tap out, and it was great. It was when I look back, I'm not speaking for Shay, but when I look back, it was one of the most pivotal times in our moment, like reprogrammed ourselves. We drove around Australia with Amway tapes in our car, just playing Amway tapes endlessly. Billy Joel Stormfront. And we did that for months, 3 or 4 months, and we ended up in Sydney. So again, one of those sort of pivotal moments there where a lot of people would have taken the $30,000 and gone, all right, let's do something. And we went on another personal adventure, which I believe grew our relationship and grew our growth. And then we ended up in Sydney, and then again, we had these moments where we didn't necessarily sit down and talk about it deep and meaningful, but we eyeballed each other and said, yeah, this is the right way to go together.
The next right step.
100%. Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the underlying, values that we both share is that, we're very happy together to go in a different direction to the crowds. We always have been like that.
Education underlies every decision that we've made. Like, when Jason joined the Air Force, he got trained as an avionics technician. So he actually did further education in something that he wanted to do. When Jace wanted to learn how to rock climb, like, he got educated. Even now when he's trying to work out how to tile something or fix something up, you're like, oh, get on YouTube and just work it out. There'll be something there. So there's this kind of underlying value that we both have, is that the pathway out of where you are is learning to do the next thing that you need to do. And certainly that was the case for me, finishing year 12, went to university, got the career job, did all of that. That was all the boxes I needed to tick from our family's perspective to be successful. It was, get educated, get a career, get a job. There was never a get educated and grow a business. That just kind of morphed out of this continual journey. But when I was going to Sydney, I was actually going to finish my degree off as well, because I didn't want to continue doing my science degree. And I thought, well, I can go to Sydney, I can live with Dad, and I can finish off some, humanities subjects on my degree and work at the same time and start my big career, so I don't have to be a manager at Target for the rest of my life.
All right, curly question on personal growth then. Do you think, put me back in my box if you don't think so, 25% of the population generally do personal growth. 75%, it's not for them, so to speak. And then of the 25% that do the personal growth, we can all come up with numbers of how many people do or don't do anything with it. What's with again 2+ decades, hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million in personal growth invested. You've got a number of companies where there's a real culture of personal growth in there as well. What's your observation of human beings that do invest their time and their energy and their vulnerability in personal growth versus those that resist it or just say, look, I'm happy for you to do it, it's not for me? What's your observation in the difference of behaviour and outcome for people that do and don't?
Good question. Well, I mean, my observation, I've been lucky enough to sort of sit across the table and coach people, so I get to observe, en masse, often. I see two extremes of this question. Like, one, it's actually ignorance is bliss. It's actually good to be unaware.
Sometimes it is so good to not know.
Because, and then, at the other end, the more aware you are, the more conscious you are, the more conscious choosing you do in your life, the more flow you get in your life. But there's kind of this kind of shitty zone in the middle where you kind of, this is a shit choice, but you're in the middle of something shit, but you don't know how to get out of it, but you're aware enough to recognize.
Yep.
So, it's a good question. And it's kind of like, the Matrix, take the blue pill or the red pill, I caution people with a bit of a joke often, but, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people I meet that say, I know. And that actually is one of the most annoying things that people say, I know, I see red. They say, yeah, but you don't do it. It annoys the fucking shit out of me. Excuse the French. So, these things for me, personally, this is my personal opinion. There's a lot of people who know, but they don't do anything with it.
Yep.
And so there's,
To know and not to do is not really to know.
It's just I got the T-shirt, you know.
So that for you is almost a defining.
Yeah.
That is the red flag, so to speak, when you see that language come out, but you don't see it actually being actioned.
Well, people collect knowledge as like a badge, but you can just have one or two really good things and do them, and you'll be a million miles ahead of someone who's collected all of this knowledge and doesn't do anything with it, doesn't apply it. You know.
I see you guys, and again, this might be more private than public, so apologies, but I know you call this out a lot when you see a lot of expert commentators talk about the market in real estate, and they're telling you all of the trends.
The running joke is the person at the barbecue who knows it all. You go and ask your mate at the barbecue, and they can tell you what's happening.
Yeah. And the commentator that is telling everyone that's watching the TV what to do and not do with their real estate, but maybe they've bought a home that they live in, but they've never bought an investment property, but they're
probably
telling
still
everyone.
live at home with mum and dad.
Shay, did you want to add to that in terms of the behaviours observed?
I agree with Jason in that area, and I think, whether you choose to do the personal growth or not, it's up to you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a course somewhere. I think post-COVID, a lot of people are going to have to do a lot of personal growth, and they're going to do it with a counsellor or a psychologist because the isolation or the working from home's brought up a lot of issues. And I think, at the end of the day, sometimes we don't necessarily get the families we would choose. We get the families that we're given, and they don't necessarily know how to teach ourselves to do our work. So you've just kind of got to get out there and do it, however it turns up for you.
All right, now you just led me into a deep, dark place, which I want to ask you both about.
I'm so good at this for you, Marcus.
Yeah, seriously. But I feel like I'm testing the friendship in some of the questions I want to ask. So, again, in private conversations, you've told me that seeing a marriage counsellor has been one of the best things you guys have ever done.
Yeah.
You speak about seeing a counsellor as a great source of personal growth. I almost feel like, and a number of conversations you've brought up in the Wealth Faculty is these taboo conversations.
Totally.
I think society almost sees, if you see a marriage counsellor, then you're broken and there's something bad, so to speak. And I know Kim and Danny spoke a lot about that. They said their counsellor Jacqueline was just one of the greatest gifts in their life. Would you be happy to share the context of what led you to seeking out a marriage counsellor and what benefits you've seen it play out in your own life? So I'll start with you, Shay.
Well, I think post-GFC, I didn't realise it, but Jason was actually depressed.
Wow.
You know, I can look back on it now and go, wow, actually that's what that looked like. I didn't realise that.
So what did it look like specifically, if you're happy to share?
I think it just is, you know, Jace was probably not able to back himself as quickly in decisions which normally he would be, you know, able to make. He'd second guess himself a lot. And I could see, you know, luckily Jason had a lot of tools to help him through it. Like he was actively doing all of the mental and physical work he needed to do to keep himself functioning in our family, in our business, and all of those activities as effort, not as ease. Like, you know, you get up and you spring out of bed and like it was all very quite deliberate. I was pregnant with Jake at the time, our youngest as well.
Our third.
Wow.
Our beautiful unexpected angel, we call him. In so many ways, that's a great name for him. And so, you know, seeing Jason do that, you know, I immediately went into sort of fix-it mode, like I'll fix it, I'll get in, I'll muck in, we'll sort it out. But the universe gave me Jake and said, no, you need to stop. So, you know, for me, watching that was really quite painful to kind of go through, I think. What was the rest of the question
what was
you
the
were
context
asking?
that led you to?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so then, you know, so we've got that going on, and then we had Jake, and as you know, Jake, our youngest, is on the spectrum. So old school diagnosis, high functioning Asperger's and ADHD. And whether people believe it or not, I definitely think living through all of that stress coming from both of us, you know, genetics brings out, you know, certain things to express themselves at certain times and the circumstances that they're in. So, you know, that's why we've got Jake. Dealing with a little kid who's on the spectrum is like nothing any parent is skilled up, tooled up to do ever.
Particularly when you've had two children that aren't, so to speak.
Correct.
And
so, you know, Callum, our eldest, is the child. He's super social. He's really musical, really arty. He's the kid who all the parents go, oh, my goodness, Callum's just such a lovely boy, such a nice man. He's so polite. He's so lovely. You know, as my 17-and-a-half-year-old who'll text us and tell us where he is or what he's going. Like, he's really that eldest son responsible, you know. And then Lily's our beautiful little middle child, rebel. She won't tell you anywhere unless she needs something from you. So I'll have to go, hey, like, are you alive? Did you get there on the train? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Yep, good. You know, which is great. I love that they're both, you know, they're unique people in who they are, which is awesome. But, you know, you have that GFC stuff. Both of us brought our baggage around that and our business and our feelings. And then we have Jake. And then you've got two small kids and they're starting school and a little baby. And then suddenly how you parent doesn't work. And, you know, for those people who know, you know, when you've got kids with any kind of challenge like that, what happens is you have to do your work on you because you get triggered by them and their behaviours and the parenting and what people say and, you know, yelling in the car park and running off from school and all of the things that come up from your past about being bullied at school and separate and all of that. That all comes up. And unless you do your work, you don't get to keep your relationship together and you don't learn how to parent better. And so where we got to then is we literally used every single tool we'd learnt from every single piece of personal development we'd ever done in the universe, and we still couldn't get it together. And our relationship was suffering, even though we were doing our best and we knew we weren't going to get divorced. Like, that was never, ever going to happen. But we just were lost. So we had to get some help. We had to have someone who knew more than us to help us unpack it, sort it out, work out which bit was Jason's shit he needs to work through, what bit was mine, and how are we going to move forward from here.
Well, I also hear you guys talk about all the time, and I think you use the actual greatest personal growth tool that we learn almost at the beginning, and it's like, you know, all of us need a coach. I mean, how many times do we hear we all need a coach? I mean, in positive real estate, everyone needs a coach, and you know, I'm visualizing what you were going through, and I think a lot of parents, people in relationship, can visualize what you are like during challenge. And a lot of the time is you actually don't have an emotionally detached third party to actually be there to help you through it.
Well, yeah, and it's like someone without an agenda, because you have family and friends and they've got their agendas. They bring, whether they like your partner or not, whether they're in a good headspace or not, whether they like your children or not. Like all of the people that surround you often, which love you and care for you, bring their own shit to the party, right? So that's the value that I found in us seeking someone completely outside of everything we do, not from work, not from friends, not from family, not anywhere.
Yep.
And they are just someone without an agenda that you can talk through stuff. And what I've always found is the shit that stays in your head either sounds really smart or really dumb, and then and until you verbalize it out, sometimes hearing it out loud goes, actually, that's bullshit. But if you don't speak it out loud, you never get to sort that shit out. And that's what I enjoyed with the marriage counsellor and other counsellors that I've sought over time for myself personally in one way, shape or form. You get to speak it out loud, and they're not judging it. And as a matter of fact, 9 times out of 10, you go, yeah, that was bullshit. Yes. Or, no, hey, there's something there. So that's been fantastic, because, being expected to work it out yourself, a relationship and children, that's not how it rolls. And seeking help when you're feeling a little bit out of your depth is absolutely golden.
Like her first comment to us was, she said, it's not very often I see people come in for marriage counselling and they both sit on the same couch holding hands.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, we're just stuck. We don't not love each other. Even someone said the other day, is it that you don't want to be with Jason around? Is that like an issue that you're holding onto emotionally in your body? I'm like, no, what? That's your thing. And I think that's probably what the personal growth stuff has really brought into Jason's and my life so much, is we're really easily able to recognise when, with love, the person's actually bringing their baggage to the conversation. They're meaning well, but it's not actually helping.
Yeah, it's never intentional. Yeah, I absolutely.
It's never intentional, and it's always done, with the best of intentions, but we're always a mirror reflecting back to the other person. So we have to be conscious of whatever that they're bringing to us as advice, might not necessarily be there. And that's why it's so important to go and have someone who you can go and talk to help you through whatever it is. Really important.
So just out of curiosity, do you still see the counsellor on a regular or ad hoc basis, or is it more that you went when times were tough, but now you've developed the muscle, or the life's not as, whatever the term is, as challenging as it was back then? Like, where does a marriage counsellor sit for you guys now?
Well, ad hoc basis at the moment.
Yep.
For me now, feeling in a good flow space in the last few years, which has been great, So, yeah, different times you rely on different people.
Yes.
And I think if that's anything of a lesson for us and me, and also, for anyone else listening in, it's not, you don't have someone all the time, but you know that when you're feeling where you're at and you go, yeah, okay, I could do with a difference of opinion, you've got someone you trust and go to.
I love that. I love that. That's cool. Just ask you about, regularity. Do you have, this is a family-based question, but as parents and business owners and the rest, do you have family rituals? And maybe this is a selfish question because, I've got 4 young kids and it's all pretty wild at the moment, but do you have rituals that are like real rocks or anchors in your family life that you go, I'm so glad we do that or we have that, because it is like the glue that keeps you all together?
Well, our holidays are our family rituals. I mean, we've, other than this year, which is a little bit annoying.
Mate, why didn't you go somewhere this year? No excuses.
We
got to all homeschool together and work instead. That was a great holiday.
That was a full together thing. It's always been great in that sort of space. We would purposefully do our holidays together. Most of the time we've selected, New Zealand, Queenstown over the last 10 years to go to. as a family.
You've been there multiple times.
Oh, yeah, nearly every year in a row for 10 years. But
Wow.
we love it. That's one of the rituals we do each year. We've always taken an opportunity to talk with our kids about planning the year and what are the big things for the year and those things. You know, what are you most grateful for? Magic moments.
Yeah,
you know, when we have dinner.
We try and do that at least once a week. Have a family meal together because everyone's got sport and after school, and Jace has been was working, doing events and those sorts of things. To try and do that in that normal world of like eat the family dinner together every night, like not going to happen.
I'm holding on to it for as long as I can until my oldest is 10.
When they're little, like from 0 to maybe 10ish or something like that, you can do it. But our oldest, like they're out. Like Lily dances 6 days a week, like is out evenings, and Callum. He's got himself a job now, so he's like every time he gets a shift.
Up rowing in the morning and he's working at night or he's studying. So.
It all yeah. Well, you guys both know that I'm the world's slowest eater. I had a whinge to Sarah, I think it was last night, going, how is dinner like a max 7-minute affair? Like I'm just beginning and the kids are already finishing and I sit down and it's not really a family meal because then Spencer's gone off and someone else has gone and it's not as easy. But I think having a ritual or you said it earlier, like an intention to create certain experiences doesn't always mean it happens.
We did get to do breakfast a little bit, was more one-on-one time with each of the kids because they were getting up at sort of different times. You could kind of do that a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of blown out of the
I think you've got to adjust where you're at. One of the things that I love now, so, connecting with each of them at different times, so for me.
One-on-one time.
One-on-one time. And, like we said at the start, this kind of fairy tale of like this is going to be perfect. You got to let that shit go, right?
I'm going to bring my children to work and just be able to live my best
Let's sit
life,
down for this wonderful family dinner. We'll have a discussion. It never goes that way. It's just, and I don't even think. Maybe when they're 30 and we're 70, we might have one of those experiences.
Maybe.
But it's not going to work.
Their kids will be at the table.
But one of the things that we take seriously is making sure that we get activities and times where we can be one-on-one with the kids, so I go rock climbing with Lily, and right now, Callum and I, our oldest, we're chatting about what we do now because we've fallen out of a bit of a pattern. I used to coach rugby, so I would be with Callum and we'd drive to rugby and so on, and so,
And I did the rowing driving with Callum.
Shay would do the rowing in the morning.
I did the driving lesson driving with Callum. So I had a whole 12 months.
You got more patience, or is that just a time management decision?
I think
it was Callum's choice. It was Callum's choice. He said, Dad stresses me out.
Dad stresses me out.
I'm like, what do you mean? I'm so chilled. I'm so chilled,
Yeah, right.
That's so good.
I'm so much better in the car. But Lily says she doesn't want me being her driving teacher, so I'm out for the next 12 months.
Lily and I will be fine. So it's interesting where you think, I'll be sweet, and then it's the opposite.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
All right, now, again, because this is the wealth faculty, I know you and I have had some chats about this, but I'm going to ask this to Shay first. I think this is really important. Children and their beliefs about money and wealth. How have you navigated this through your own adventure as a mum?
It's a great question and it's really interesting. I'll let you know how well I think I've navigated it in about a decade's time. We'll see how we've gone there. I think my family's beliefs around money were so different to mine now. It's really hard to know whether I'm doing a good job helping my kids understand money's worth. In our household, there wasn't a lot of money. I think we only got a colour TV when I was 15, and our belief was you never went into debt for anything. You saved and you bought it, hence why we only got a colour TV when I was 15. Mum was a great money manager. She would have purses that she'd put, here's the petrol money, here's the food money, here's the bill money from the pay. So I always saw that, but it was very much from a place of scarcity rather than a place of abundance. So the challenge we've got now is that, we have an abundance of wealth in the family. We get to look after the family. The kids can choose to do whatever they want, wherever they want. That doesn't mean that they get to. But, if I use Lily as an example, she loves dancing. Is she going to be a prima ballerina? That's up to her. She doesn't have to be. And she probably won't be. I don't think that's necessarily her passion. most parents wouldn't be able to say, Lily, you can keep dancing now on point because she wears 3-point shoes every 6 weeks, right? Which they're about $160 a go. That's not viable for most families to be able to make that choice to allow her to have that to continue to be her exercise, right? And I go, well, is that a good thing that I'm allowing that to happen or not? So it's interesting to watch Callum and Lily's behaviour with money. We talk a lot about business. You know, they're in the car with me when I've been driving, not when I was with Callum because I didn't have my phone because you're not allowed to have your phone. But when I was driving and they went, you know, they'd hear business talks and we talk about money and budgets and ad spends and those sorts of things. So they've got those business conversations. Lily's got her traineeship job now. She's got her first pays from that. And she's like, I can't have it in my bank account. I can't see it in there. If it's in there, I spend it. And she's pulled all her cash out and has it sitting in a box in her room because she's like, I can't save it in any key cards. I will just move it all around. Whereas Callum is like, okay, I want, you know, my money like this and I like to see it build up in my bank account and I'm going to take this money here and I'm going to put that there. You know, and so he's quite strategic.
He's the new client of Positive Real Estate, I believe.
Yeah,
he's getting ready to buy his first.
Whereas
He's pretty keen. He's talking about it.
Jake's got no concept of money at all, and really how it works. He just thinks that it
appears. Yeah,
it just appears. Like, I mean, and you were there this morning where he was saying to me, "Hey, Mum, I want to go and get this private server on Roblox. I need 200 Robux, right?" So he's, for those parents who, you know, don't have small children, he's talking about digital cash and coins on a game that I pay real money for so he can buy things in the virtual world. So how do I even help him with that? Because that's what's coming for everyone. So I don't know. I think we're kind of doing our best. You know, they don't get pocket money in our household. If they want money, they actually have to go and nominate jobs around the house to earn cash, where they've carted rocks and they've blown roofs and, you know, done extra things.
Carted rocks, it sounds so 200 years ago.
And bricks and stuff. So, you know, whereas like unstacking dishwashers and putting your laundry away and cleaning your rooms and all that, like, that's just stuff you do because you have to be in the household. So you don't sort of get that choice.
Yep. We've got Violet, your wonderful pet dog, here joining us on the podcast today. Jace, do you want to add anything to that about children and their beliefs around money and wealth?
Yeah, I think what I'm observing is, you know, at least Callum and Lily are keen observers of what we're doing about money, and often you don't see things show up until a bit later. But I see them looking and I hear them talking, and some of the things they talk about with their friends and others, you know, things are landing, but they're not acknowledging in front of you that they're landing. They don't want mum and dad to know that we're listening. All right, so you know,
especially Lily.
And in my head, I just keep the idea that, you know, they do what you do, not what you tell them to do.
Oh, 100%.
You know, so you know, for us, it's like if we can make sure we're open and make it. Because we purposefully talk about money, sex, politics, religion in our family all the time. Yeah. Like, and we talk about it everywhere all the time. Like, these things are important and they're not taboo. So we talk about money. We say to our kids, hey, listen, we have a lot more money than most people. So don't go rub it in people's faces. That's not okay. You know, don't talk about it in that way. So, but don't be embarrassed.
I can imagine you guys would be really angry if you saw your children being almost egotistical.
They're not like that. You know,
they're not like that.
Says, I don't want to be the rich kid. You know, he goes to a really great school and they're amazing. And some people's families have really different values around money there than what we do. I suppose for us, money's a vehicle, you know, and it gives you better choices. That's really what it's there for.
And for us, we've always been understated with our money, you know. Yeah. It's been something.
We're not, you know, all about the...
I said to Shay the other day, nice top. And she said, yeah, $8, Kmart. I was like, wow.
Mate, I love it. These are like $15 T-shirts from, you know, YD. And, you know, at the end of the day, the great thing, like if we want to go buy something, we do.
Yeah.
But it's not about what it looks like for us.
You're not trying to keep up with anyone to...
No, we don't have to keep up with anyone, you know. And I love the idea, you know, where I think about, you know, one of the richest men in the world, no, not Keith Cunningham. Berkshire Hathaway.
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett, having a mental blank. He still lives in the same house that he bought 40 years ago and still drives the same car. Now I'm not going to go that extreme, but in my world, like the excess of money, I just want to do something else with it. And we're both the same.
Schools in other countries.
Yeah, but also too, we love the idea of taking care of our family and people around us, and we share stuff around.
The choice for the kids as they get older. When we want them to come on family holidays with us as they're teenagers, and they don't want to because they want their friends to come with them. That we can afford to bring the friends with them. So it's, as I said, money gives you choices. And, as Jason said, like, we've got more than enough. But once you've got all the stuff, like, what do you do with it? Like, help family, donate stuff.
Legacy and future, and for us now, that's kind of what we're building on.
So I've asked you about a number of things that you almost agree on, but what do you still disagree on? Where does conflict come up? Because for people watching or listening, I don't want to paint this picture.
How long have we got in this podcast?
It's like the most romantic, beautiful, everything's always flowing. But, where does conflict come up and how do you deal with it? You go first, Jace.
I'll just pull out my notebook.
Oh, no.
Well, listen, for us in our world, some of the ways we view education and the things we deem important, there's certainly some gaps, and we've learned to appreciate each other's gaps over time. My version of the world about education is different to Shay's. So
in what way?
So Shay certainly is very pro university and that sort of stuff if it's important, and I'm kind of on the other side of it, kind of like, well,
YouTube.
School of Life, hard knocks.
I'm School of Life, hard knocks. And like, oh, dude, if you're going to invest $40,000 in something that's going to be out of date by the time it's even started, it's out of date now. It's not even relevant in the world of business or life. Then I wouldn't be doing it. So and maybe kind of I get a bit sort of crotchety in my version of the world. The older I get,
when you put those glasses down like this.
But I said to my kids, I'm not paying for your uni. I'm not. Like, you pay for it yourself. Like,
I love that. I think it's just
because
I don't disagree with that.
I'm not sponsoring a party. Like, if you want it and you want a debt, then it's your problem, mate.
Jason got to have his party on the government for being in the Air Force.
Well, if you want a party, go join the Air Force or something. I don't know, but that's not a very good way to say that. No, I did great in the Air Force. It was actually perfect for me.
You fell in love because of the Air Force. If it wasn't for the Air Force, we wouldn't be here right now.
Got him out of
the sliding doors,
Yeah.
But I mean, the friction for us really as a couple is about us as husband and wife. What's important. Jason, I'm important. I want to be doing more work. You need to look after the kids more. And, that's not okay. That's not okay to have that disposition unless you've agreed on that disposition.
Yep.
And so, the friction for us, if you say there's the major friction points are, who's more important? And we worked out eventually that it's Shay's the most important.
Yeah.
But
it changes over time.
We worked that out. Me. And then you can't sort of stand on opposite sides of the room and go, it's all about me. And then you can't often, this is kind of limiting words, but saying, it's all about we. If we do it equally, then equally will work. I think that's fucking bullshit, right? So sometimes you have to be unequal, consciously choosing and checking in that it's unequal for the moment. It's your gig and now it's my gig and then I'll do this thing. And so, I can certainly say we haven't worked that out perfectly.
Well, I think that's a continuum though. I think that is a conversation till the day you die.
Yeah.
Because now he's working more and I'm living my best life. He's finished the wind chimes. I did my thing early.
Well, you did it early.
I know.
I love this. I really think this is so helpful. What about for you, Shay? What do you feel like is and I will ask an empowering side of this conflict question as well, but what for you comes up as a source of conflict in your marriage? Let's go there and then I'll ask the empowering end.
I'm going to say time and I'll preface that with the fact that Jason's and my love languages are different, and the conflict bears out if you're not conscious of what the other person's love language is. So Jason's is physical touch and acts of service, and mine is quality time and words of affirmation.
QT.
So when Jason was travelling away for work all the time, I wasn't getting quality time and he wasn't getting any physical touch. So for him, me being at home means I'm doing an act of service, looking after our children and all those sorts of things. But he's too busy in client meetings all day, every day. So I'd get not a text, I'd get a call. Like Jason's always been great at calling because, mobile phone's a bit, but it wasn't enough, for either of us, to sort of work that out. So until we read that book, we didn't understand that that's what was going on.
It's a real game changer for relationships.
Absolute cracker.
And then I think now the time component is around us making time for us, because there's a business that takes a big portion of us, and we have 3 children, which takes time from us well.
We give.
Yes.
Takes time. Well,
We give.
I feel sometimes
We
it
give.
takes time. Takes my time.
We give.
That's how I feel. Jason feels he's giving. I feel it's taking. I do feel that. I'm sure there's plenty of mums out there who feel that it's taking.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just a bit of a gender thing, right? If we think about men are always giving and women are taking, even in that sexual sense, it's probably why we even have that different,
There has to be two sides of the coin.
There has to be two sides of it. So, then fitting that in, scheduling it in, making sure we prioritise date nights regularly and time. I think that's something we're actually particularly bad at. We'll keep working. We'll do kids stuff. We don't make time to just have time for us, even though it's in the calendar. We'll go and do something else.
Well, these is when your values are. So I feel like this is like great counselling for me as well. when your values are actually so aligned, often if family is so strong, when something comes up, you will go to the family and put the quality time together to one side, because the family right now is more important, and that dinner out or that lunch date or that massage or that weekend away gets canned because something comes up and you have to give or take to the family, whatever, however you term it. But do you feel that, I feel like there's a really important role in conflict, and I don't want to tell you what I think it is, but I would love to know from your own experiences, and for everyone watching and listening, conflict is going to be here forever. Like, what do you feel like you learn about each other from the conflicts that you go through? Start with you, Jace.
Well, it's an important thing. I remember, it was probably a Tony Robbins thing about sort of learning to be good at conflict, learning to be healthy at conflict, and making sure that you practice it in a respectful way, because it's an opportunity to get sort of things on the table and talk through them. And to be honest, I'm good at pacifying. I'm a peacemaker, and coming from my family, that was my role. And Shay's pretty good at conflict. She doesn't shy away from stepping up.
So Shay likes to be. She calls the elephant in the room, and you'll try and ignore it.
Oh, listen, I want no one to look at it, right? So I'm just like, pack that away, just over here, everyone, look at this, look at this.
I would never have thought that.
I do it everywhere, too.
Yeah.
I always call it.
And
I love that. I'm way more Shay than Jason.
And both of them have their strengths, but both of them have their problems. If you're always calling everything out, then you don't end up with friends.
Yeah. Can we have any fun here?
Nobody likes you. And then and then if you're never calling anything out, like you're spineless. So then they're the extremes of these issues. And I think for both of us, recognizing that many years ago, and working towards balancing that at the right time is part of development as well. Sort of, I've learned to be better at conflict, and Shay's learned to be less head on with the conversation and bring it up in a different way. So I think
too, learning how to talk to each other about the conflict we're having as well, trying to get that language of the communication, like clarifying and re-clarifying and clarifying again what you're saying. Like, I love reading in books, and I'm probably better with words and explanations, than Jason is. Jason it's like, how do I talk about how I'm feeling here? I don't know. Or he'll say something and I'll interpret it differently.
Yeah.
So that constant re-clarification is super, super important.
And never giving up on it. I think, we speak about, there are a lot of different ways we could go down here, like masculine and feminine conversation, and the way, I think even you and I were chatting the other day, like when I speak to Sarah, sometimes I feel like it is a different language. I'm like, I've got to crack the code of what she's saying. She asked it in a question, but I'm sure it's a statement. What exactly is it that she wants?
Can you just tell me exactly what you want, please?
But that's
Let's
like
not go around and
we just want you to be a
what
man
do you
or masculine for like just 5 seconds. Tell me exactly what you
Jason says that all the time. What do you mean? Just ask me for the thing you want. I'm like,
And then I'm going, right, I've worked it out. I'm going to ask you a yes or no. All I want is yes or no. And then I ask the question and Shay's like twitching. And then she can't say yes or no. And I'm like, how do you not say yes or no? Like,
Oh, dear. Oh, this is good. All right. We're getting towards the end. There's a lot of questions I haven't asked, and we'll do that on another episode, maybe in 12 months' time. But 2021, what are your plans? What are your rituals around planning for a year? More as a family, not so much as a business. I'd love to know. I know you love to go to the farm, and do you sit down and try and get all the kids to bed and sit down for 2 or 3 hours, pour a glass of wine and talk about your big dreams for the year? Or how do you strategize around this time of the year? Let's go with ladies
we
first.
go away.
yeah.
Well, you go to Byron, don't you? Didn't
Yeah,
we
we
have
usually-
dinner? Was that
Yeah,
a-
we usually go to Byron. This year
Yeah.
we've booked in at Brisbane. So we've got...
Smart move, because
Yeah.
everyone's going to Byron.
Everyone's
Yeah,
in
everyone's
line.
going to Byron, so we go the opposite way. But we do it every year. We at least take 4 days, 3 to 4 days for ourselves in January, and then plan out a year. But also this year we're going to sort of reset a decade plan as well, because 2020's kind of rounded off.
You got a couple. You got a
full
zero
decade.
birthday coming up in 2021,
I do,
Shay,
yes,
darling.
Yes, 50.
It's very exciting.
Half a century.
I love it.
It's all good.
I love it.
Just
Raise
getting
the bat.
started,
And
Yeah.
the toy boy's still got another year to go.
mate. All of you land. That's what you just every day.
I reckon for a couple that says that you struggle to get some time together, to have 4 days at the start of the year to strategize, I think is incredibly. It's a wonderful thing. I think a lot of people listening going, if you can do that for yourself at the start of a year, what a ritual to have every year, and to even discuss a 10-year plan. I love it. All right, now I've had a private conversation with both of you. I'm doing a test as to how well you know each
We're
other.
gonna fail this.
Can we just cut this part out of the podcast, Marcus?
All right, I'm going to put Jason in the deep end first.
Okay.
Oh, good.
All right. I've got to work out how to do this. So, Jason, Shay's favourite movie. Hold on a minute. How do I
No,
do this
you want to
again?
ask Jason what his favourite movie is and then see if I got
That's
the answer
exactly
right.
what I want to do. Thank you,
Yes.
Shay. Thank you. I was like, how am I doing this? All right. Jason, your favourite movie is?
Shit, I don't know.
Pretty much what Shay
There's
said.
plenty of good ones. I reckon either something in
Don't give me a genre. You don't.
like
It's a yes or no answer almost. Just give me the answer.
far out. I reckon Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Well, Shay said Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Yeah. All
It was close. It was so
not
close.
Bad, not
It
bad.
was so close.
Favourite colour?
Blue.
Yep. Tick. Ding, ding, ding. Favourite holiday destination?
Mine.
Yep.
Oh, New Zealand for sure. Queenstown.
Wow. Shay said anywhere with rocks or New York.
New York is a good spot. Yeah, I never thought I'd like New York, but I do.
You do. Favourite meal?
Tomato soup. Had it yesterday. It was awesome.
I know. I saw you coming into a meeting and I saw you have a. Oh, gee whiz. Favourite pair of shoes?
Oh, my North Face, my North Face hiking boots.
Yep. That's what you said, climbing shoes. Favourite saying?
Shit, I don't know. Oh, tin pot turkey.
I said that.
We still don't know what it means. Now you have to say,
you have
if
to
you,
look it up.
if you use tin pot turkey, give us the context and what does it mean?
It's a bad way to cook a turkey in a tin pot because it leaches the bad taste into the tin. So, it's a shit way to have a turkey.
And yeah, so when you say it, I mean, you're not talking about cooking turkey all the time.
No, but it's
So
just
what? What do you say? That person's a tin pot turkey, or
yeah, it's just a shit thing.
Okay.
It's shit.
I'm gonna look that up.
It's country context, and it's probably been augmented by my lack of asking my relations, my family,
Where it
never
comes from. It's
clarifying
probably
where
not
it
even
comes
You
true
from.
heard it when you were 4.
I did.
and you've just been saying it.
I did. You just repeat it and go, sounds good. I'm just going to roll off the tongue.
All right, Shay, your favourite movie?
It's definitely Star Wars.
It is. I can't believe it. He got you. Ding, ding. Well done, Jace. Your favourite colour?
Green.
2 out of 2. Your favourite holiday destination?
Oh. Favourite place to go to? I really like Queenstown as well, actually.
That was his answer. 3 out of 3. You're winning so far. Now, this could get interesting. Favourite meal?
My favourite meal?
Yep.
I love spaghetti bolognese.
Wow. Cross.
What did you say?
He said some form of New Zealand scallops.
The oysters in New Zealand.
Oh, they were really nice.
I'm just thinking, what the?
We want to get to
Yeah, I
Queenstown.
started to really contour
I
what
was
I
struggling. I was struggling.
Yeah. Favourite pair of shoes?
Favourite pair of shoes.
He actually gave more a brand than a.
Did he?
Yep.
Okay. Probably my Converse sneakers. Is that what you said?
Milano. Blahnik, he said, but they're a bit expensive, but she likes them.
I don't have a pair of those.
Which one did you buy then?
I've got a pair of Louis Vuittons and I've got a pair of
That's so good.
Valentinos. So
There we go. You
don't
don't,
even know.
have to check the
What were
label.
the shoes we bought in New
Jimmy
York?
Choos.
Jimmy Choos. So
You're
there you go.
following
I don't
downhill.
even-
You're
I
following
don't
downhill
even know what
quick
they
here.
are. Jimmy Choo. Jimmy
You started
Shoes.
You started off in a blaze of glory. And the last one, I've actually got a blank because I don't think we could come up, or he could come up with the favourite saying. Did you come up with a favourite saying for Shadow?
No, I had no bloody idea.
Blanks.
No.
Blanks. Well, that's probably
I
not
reckon.
bad.
I reckon at the moment it's bonkers.
Yeah, bonkers.
Yeah.
I'd say bonkers.
Bonkers.
Bonkers comes up. Now, I've got to ask you guys the last question. Family edition, the one that you tell your kids, you ask it to every guest at the end of the Wealth Faculty. In the Whitton family household, what is the true meaning of wealth? Shay Whitton first.
The true meaning of wealth in the Whitton family is really family. So, time with your family, being able to be there for them, and whether that's in time or in help or financially support them, that's the true meaning of wealth for us.
Yeah, well said. Jace?
Yeah, I'd second that, and it's probably come home even more in COVID times, where interesting saying that but not doing that for over 15 years, where traveling and almost completely 100% resigning myself to the fact that having to travel for our family so we can be looked after was the thing. And really this year in COVID really is the true wealth for our family is time together and the resources to not be stressed when we have that time together. And so it's a bit of a combination conversation there for me, because what I do find for myself is when the resources are tucked away nicely, money and wealth, then it enhances the family wealth, the time we have, the choices, the time, the fun, the bits and pieces. So
Oh, well said. Well, the pair of you set an incredible example to your family and everyone around you. Thanks for sharing so much today. Appreciate you going down the rabbit hole with me on your podcast, The Wealth Faculty. Have an incredible 2021. Thanks for everything you both do, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Marcus.
Hey, thanks for joining us on The Wealth Faculty. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe. Where all good podcasts are found, you can find us there. And if you want to watch it, you can subscribe on YouTube, Positive Mentor TV. And until the next episode, take care. Bye for now.